put it in Lehigh Valley Live tomorrow?
How are you?
21%. Hey, Ken.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, that's you. Yeah. How are you, everybody? Great.
Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. There it is. That's right. I forgot about that. Oh well. Okay. All right. Hey, Roger. Roger got a new toy. Roger, is that a new one?
Oh, no, I've had.
Oh, you had that. Yes.
Can't tell if it's slapped around a little.
I got 2+. Sent it.
Crystal, to the front. Hot seat, hot seat, hot seat, hot seat.
What? How much?
Yeah, it might cost.
Crystal, your best friend, father is my chiropractor. Is my chiropractor. I'll tell you afterwards. Several times.
All right, Murphy.
Oh.
I'd like to call this stated session of City Council order. Please rise for the invocation followed by the pledge of flag. This evening, our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity for meeting. We thank you for each and every one of us who is here today, especially our youth who participated in the Mayor's Summer Youth Camp. Watch over these young people, keep them safe and healthy. We wish them well with their education and wish them much success in their career as they become productive adults in our community. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Milan?
Here.
Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Sultana? And Mayor Panto.
Here. Approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Here.
Action on our minutes of our July 12th meeting.
Move the minutes.
Moved.
Second.
And second. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Chief Carl Scalzo of the Police Department for the introduction of one of our new hires.
Good morning, everybody. Chief Carl Scalzo, City of Easton Police Department, 48 North 4th Street. I just want to take a moment. I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you have a pretty busy agenda today, but we did want to come over and just introduce our new community advocate. We have been before council several times. We spoke about the position, basically what the position would be doing as far as responsibilities and our expectations as to what it could do for the city. I'm going to be introducing Kristen Cooper today, who was hired by the city to fill that role, and I've been extremely pleased with what we've seen already in a very short period of time. I'll let her speak a little bit about her background, her past, and what she brings here to the table and the things that she's done. But she's already started to interact with the officers, reach out to many victims that we've had over the course of the last month or so. Actually helps us with some of our homeless individuals and the issues that we're having, trying to help them, and any number of other things that where she can really step up, interact, and really kind of get involved with the resources that she brings to the table.
I think it would be informational to give City Council what your department did with the individual who was in Center Square.
Sure, and that was one of the things that Kristen was involved in. But one of the individuals was actually very appreciative that we took the time as a department to kind of sit and find out exactly what their needs were. It's easy to look and see a homeless individual and kind of almost look past that and just see the nuisance of a person that's constantly in the same place, just there. So what we did was Officer Crossan and several other officers in the department actually reached out to the individual to find out exactly what the underlying problem was, and he was actually looking for help. And through some of the contacts that Kristen had, and I'm hoping I'm not stealing some of her thunder here because I do want her to be able to speak to it, she was able to find resources for that individual. And I'll let her speak to exactly what she did. But not only did we get in place, but she actually did more than that, that she has it prepared that when after he has the treatment that he needs, there's further opportunities for him to continue to get help.
Great.
So I'll let her speak to that. As you know, and I spoke about it, this is a very much a legacy type position for me, something that I'm really proud to be able to bring to this department and to the city. I've always said that I thought the citizens, the victims of this city and the citizens of this city deserve a position like this. And I really do think what Kristen brings is going to really bring that to fruition. And I always, whenever speaking of a position like this, always like to mention my sister, who, again, was really influential on me in understanding the need for a victim advocate, community advocate, and something like that, because she lived her whole life for that purpose. And I think I'm really pleased to be able to bring her, Kristen here, bring her on and have this resource available to our community. So with that said, I'll bring up Kristen now, and I'll let her introduce herself and speak a little bit about what she's done.
Hi, I'm Kristen. So I started with the city a little less than a month ago. I come from a almost 12-year background in children and youth. I started working part-time for Bethlehem City doing a similar program, and I wholeheartedly believe in this kind of program in conjunction with working with the officers to help cities out. I actually spoke with Mr. Kingsley while we were working the snack stand at our kids' baseball game in the fall, and I said, hey, the city would really benefit from this. So we kind of touched base about it then. Went through the process, and here we are. So I hope to bring my experience working with people and finding creative solutions to different problems to the table, and hopefully we can help people, especially people that aren't necessarily, coming and begging for help. We're going out and asking people, do you need some help, and really reaching out. So as far as that individual, we were able to get him into a mental health bed that works with the co-occurring social need of homelessness. So while he's working on his mental health, he will be working on stability as far as housing. They're going to work with him on budgeting and finance. That way, when he is medically cleared with his mental health, he'll be able to move into a transitional housing, and we can get him squared away and in a better position.
Thank you. Welcome aboard, Kristen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
I just want to take a moment to thank you, actually. This is exactly what we were looking. I'm directly in touch with all the fire shooter victims, and I heard a lot about you. Like, you have been in touch with them since day one, and you've been trying to help them out. So I truly, truly appreciate that for stepping in and taking that role. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
And just add on to Councilwoman, one of the things I took away from your conversation here was that you had an opportunity to sit and listen and talk, and I believe Chief said the same thing. A lot of times we look over, and I could see that a person needed help and was afraid to ask. I'm glad that we reached out to that person, and you're going to be a great access to the program and to the city. So welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. At this time, we're going to have the presentation by each of the members of the Mayor's Summer Youth Camp. Post-COVID, we were able to bring this program back. Vincent is here. Why don't you introduce yourself and introduce the campers?
Hello, good evening, Council. Good evening to everyone else. Just wanted to say I'm Vincent Camanici. I've been the intern for Mayor Salpanto, and I've been in charge of the Mayor's Summer Youth Camp, looking at the applications, talking to the kids, and we've had a very good experience. We've had a very good time over the past few days. We've gone to the fire station today. We've been at the waterworks plant. We've seen a lot. We've eaten some good food, and they've learned a lot about Easton history. I'd say about half of our kids here are from Easton or Easton area, and they've been very good, very, very smart. They've been putting in a lot of effort, asking questions, and I'm 20, so I get it. A lot of times they might not talk the most, they might not ask all the questions, but I get that because they're high schoolers. But apart from that, they've been doing really great. I'm really proud of them. I think you are all going to be very impressed with some of the speeches you're going to be hearing, and yeah, let's start.
And you want to tell them you're a graduate of the Summer Youth Camp?
Oh yes, apologies. I actually was in the Mayor's Summer Youth Camp in 2018, 5 years ago, and it was a very it was an awesome experience being able to learn about that history up close, and it's been a good experience being able to kind of pass that torch and have that pass that experience on to the high schoolers of today and our leaders of tomorrow. So I think you will all be very impressed.
Why don't you start calling them up?
All right, we will start with. Do you want me to call them by name or just have them?
It doesn't matter.
We'll just start down the line and you'll introduce yourself. Oh, you want to start with you? or do you want to start? Sophia, you want?
Just start on the end and work your way down.
Okay. You're good. All right, we're starting on the end and we're going, clockwise. All right, enjoy.
Good evening, City Council members and audience alongside my peers. It's been a pleasure participating in the Easton Mayor Summer Youth Camp. My name is Pomopoulos. I'm a rising freshman attending Easton Area High School.
Good evening. My name is Lena Hutt. I attend Lehigh Valley Charter High School for the Arts, and I'm a rising sophomore. Thank you for being here today and listening to our ideas and recommendations for the city.
There's no doubt that our favorite part of this enriching experience was the educational time we had at the fire station. Lena and I learned that firemen don't only fight fires, they are also EMTs.
Homelessness and homelessness alongside affordable housing will be our topic. According to the Lehigh Valley Live, about 100 families in Easton are homeless. And the reason for homelessness isn't always because a person is unemployed. In some cases, parents or guardians have decent paying jobs, but still are homeless. In November 2022, about 100 families were homeless. Many of them were evicted and couldn't find a place to live. And that's just mentioning families. When walking through downtown Easton, I see a numerous amount of homeless men on their own and nowhere to sleep. In Easton, we have 2 homeless shelters, but they are not effective in all cases and don't give the help everyone needs.
Safe Harbor and the Third Street Alliance for Women and Children are the 2 homeless shelters Easton has to offer. The Third Street Alliance for Women and Children only allows women and children, while Safe Harbor only accepts men and women. This caused a lot of families to break up because the male figure in the family will have to go to Safe Harbor while the woman will have to go to a Third Street Alliance. This causes the family to become separate. Say, for instance, the father was going to see his children and wife, and he has had some drug or alcohol violence in the past, but he's gotten over it. When walking on the street, he might accidentally see one of his old buddies, and they might peer pressure him to stop abusing again. This resets all the progress he has had into going into for his family. If the family just lives under one roof, this wouldn't be a problem. Usually having a family by your side will motivate you even more. This is why I think having a family shelter will benefit both sides, because what if you have a single father and that's because he has his child? The father might be able to go to Safe Harbor, but the child will have to be in shelter care, will be in foster care, or someone else to take care of him. That's because Safe Harbor doesn't allow children at all.
This goes hand in hand with affordable housing. If we had affordable housing, homelessness would be a lot less. Typically, everyone thinks that if you're homeless, you don't have a job or you're doing nothing, but a lot of homeless people actually might have multiple jobs just due to unaffordable housing. They can't afford the down payment for an apartment. That's why I think Easton could develop a program for working homeless and for the homeless who might have a job. It would double as a rehabilitation center where they all are able to get the right help and get back on their feet. I hope you find this presentation memorable and take it into consideration with planning for the future. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Sophia?
Good evening, City Council. My name is Sophia Herrera. I'm a senior at Easton Area High School, and I'm here as a part of the Mayor's Youth Summer Camp. I've learned a lot in this camp and from the mayor, and I'm very grateful to be here tonight. If I was in your seat, I would greatly consider putting bus benches at every bus stop. Right now, city buses aren't used very often because the stops are far apart and each stop is very hidden. A bench at every bus stop would make the stop more noticeable and incentivize people to ride the bus, alleviating traffic and reducing air pollution. These benches would also be appealing any time of the year as a relief from all types of weather. I know some may disagree because the benches would give homeless a place to rest, but the issue is not the benches. Right now there are no benches and homeless people lay on the floor, so has to be another solution. Moreover, common citizens should not have to suffer because of the homeless minority who need mental and physical help. The benches would ultimately do a lot of good for the city and its citizens. I hope you all consider my proposal. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anthony Mangus. One of my favorite parts of the mayor's summer camp was the bottle plants and how they made drinkable water. Thank you for this opportunity.
Hello, my name is Ethan Mangus. I'm his brother. My favorite part of the trip was walking down Larry Holmes Drive. You always read about these guys in books or watch them in videos, and just these wonderful. It's just wonderful to see that they come from such an area like this, that they are not just myths; they are actually people. And I would like to propose that the city adds more city-sponsored clubs. It could give families a incentive to settle down in Easton, which would ultimately generate more city income. And it also provides entertainment, which can be a big problem in Easton because it takes so much money to sponsor all these events for like these stadiums with a $10,000 TV to watch and all that. It can also inspire people with the music, art, or chess. I like to play chess, and really, it would have been a lot to just have that opportunity to play it more often and get to learn more about it. And I think bringing the people together could help build the city's culture ultimately, and teach people how to walk with each other, so we don't all just have all this tension. I know everyone's always on edge because of political views and all that, but it'd be nice to just get together and just have laughs. Thank you for your time. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, gentlemen.
Hello and good evening, City Council and Mayor Panto. My name is Alex Jen, and I am a rising sophomore at Easton Area High School. I'm very grateful for the time and opportunities I've had here at the Mayor's Summer Youth Camp. I've learned a lot more about the city and seen some facilities that make the city a great place. But however, no place is perfect. Every place has problems. The problem I'd like you to focus on for the next few minutes is the decline of small and local businesses within our city. In this city, there are great small businesses and they diversify our economy. There are great entrepreneurs that have amazing dreams and aspirations. They pour their hearts and souls into building their businesses. They work very hard and are the essence of our community. It is our duty and our privilege to stand by them and propel them towards prosperity. However, the vitality of small businesses cannot be underestimated, with over 50% of local employment, with them causing over 50% of local employment, and they drive the economic well-being of our residents. However, nearly 30% of these local businesses are almost closed and running it down. We cannot stand by as entrepreneurs' dreams waver on uncertainty in our city. Many citizens currently go to larger corporations, spend their money there, and the money doesn't get recycled into our local economy. It only helps people in like Arkansas or states with the big corporations' headquarters. But when we spend money in local businesses, it all helps our economy and stays local. So my plan is to incubate small businesses. We must conquer these challenges. I propose an innovative solution where local entrepreneurs are given unwavering support, mentorship, and guidance. I am aware that the city also already gives zero interest loans to small businesses. However, I believe we could help them more in order to combat the struggle that they face. I think we could give financial resources, financial advice. If they are having trouble, we can send someone to help them figure it out and get back on their feet. I would like you to imagine how these businesses would thrive. I would also like to diversify our economy. We can target incentives to businesses in emerging sectors. We can grow the industries locally areas like renewable energy, technology, and more healthcare. This approach will help make our economy a better place, make it more diverse. Diversifying the economy ensures our financial stability, but it also secures the future of our children, our grandchildren, and ensure they have access to diverse job opportunities right here in our town. In conclusion, we need to enhance economic growth in our city. It embodies the dreams, aspirations, and livelihoods of our residents. My two ideas will infuse new life into our city, creating an environment where innovation, creativity, and entrepreneurship thrive. Thank you for considering these ideas and have a good evening.
Thank you. I'm glad you remembered everything
Thank
I
you.
said about small businesses and local economy. That's great. Thank you so much. Jameson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jameson Hopkins, and I'm here as a member of the Easton Mayor Summer Youth Camp. I am an incoming junior at Bethlehem Catholic High School, and I have an idea that I think would be useful for City Council to implement. That idea is bike share. Whether it is Lime Bike, O-Bike, or any other service, I believe that it can be extremely beneficial to the people of Easton. Having bike share in the city of Easton would be affordable for residents, less time consuming than driving in the city, and it will help to solve the street parking and traffic problem in the downtown. It can also be easier for tourists who want to park their car and explore the city in a cheap and economical way. This and the fact that 70% of communities that use bike share reported a positive impact as well as 16% of bike share users reporting that they were more inclined to make purchases at street and neighborhood businesses. Thank you.
Excellent idea.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Max Lisinecki, and I'm an incoming junior at Easton Area High School. I'm grateful to be here with the Mayor's Summer Camp, and I'm standing here in front of you today to ask for a train station in Easton. It would make travel to other major cities much easier, and it would also make Easton a hub for more tourists and other people alike. Trains are also less harmful to the environment because they emit less greenhouse gases than cars. Thank you for your time and consideration. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Lisecki.
Thank you.
You're recognizing some names here. Three of them. There's three of our directors have kids here.
Hello and good evening. My name is Everett Kingsley, and I'm going to be a junior at Nazareth Area High School. I'm extremely grateful to be a part of this informational camp. My favorite part was walking around the city and learning how it has evolved over time.
Good evening, Easton City Council members. My name is Becca Kingsley, and I'm going into my freshman year of high school. The mayor's camp was a great opportunity for me to learn a lot of great things. One thing that I found interesting of the mayor's camp was how it focused on the history of Easton and how its relationship to the rest of the U.S.
The topic that this proposal focuses on is the constant and pressing issue of homelessness. It is no secret that a lack of affordable homes is a big cause of homelessness. To aid in the production of these affordable houses, we can incorporate 3D printed homes into the city. This will allow for building to be produced cheaply and quickly. We can also collaborate with developers to build houses cheaper while the developers are still able to benefit with the use of government subsidies.
Another great solution to homelessness in Easton is partnering up with a nonprofit organization to help raise money for homeless people in need. A great example of a nonprofit organization to team up with is American Hope Resources, which allows grants for people in need. After this, it will help homeless people get back up on their feet and help them start a new life.
Thank you for listening to our proposal and have a great night.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. I still think you could squat 200 pounds. Your dad's here, so just ask him. He'll verify it.
Hello and good afternoon, members of the City Council and audience. Thank you for funding this wonderful program. It is a great opportunity in my career as well as the careers of my colleagues. My name is Itsutari Fuentes. I go to Easton Area High School and a vocational school called CIT. The idea I'm presenting today is the recycling program. The idea is quite simple. You walk by any street, you can pick up an old plastic bottle or glass bottle, you drop it off at this sort of recycling bin, except it's a machine. And you get in return 5, 10, or 25 cents, depending on how the bottle is, or depending on the product you're disposing of. The the idea of the machine is essentially a reverse vending machine per se. You place the bottle in, it scans it, counts how much, counts the actual product going inside the bin, and depending on the quantity of of the bottles or the disposables, you get that much amount of money. Get that much amount of money times the quantity. I hope you consider this idea, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, as you can see, the summer youth camp will continue through tomorrow. They tour the police station tomorrow and then come back here for some review of the week. It's been a pleasure to have your children or your nephew or your niece or just your friend. Found them to be all very, very astute. We're confident, gives us more confidence as adults that the future of the city is in good hands and the future of the area. We do not limit it just to Easton residents, as you can see. There's a couple that were from out of the area. I think it's very important if we as a city want to be the center for cultural, historical, and economic behavior, we need to attract people from outside of the area into our city. So that's why we do that. So they become our ambassadors. Some of the council members will recognize Hopkins, Mangus, and Kingsley as being children of our directors. They not only got a chance to be in summer camp, they got the chance to see where their father works and what he does and what impact it has. And so I want to thank them. All of your responses helping small business. You'll hear a little bit about that tonight. The bus shelter benches, as I told the presentation, is an excellent idea. But unfortunately, that is Lanta. Lanta takes care of the county of Northampton, and Lehigh take care of that. Homelessness, as you did hear a presentation from the police chief. As I told you during the camp, that our police don't just get rid of those people. I mean, we help them and get into a facility to help them their mental illness, and then help them while they're there secure permanent housing. So, and just yesterday, I didn't tell you this, but just yesterday I met with Shiloh Church, Pastor Davis and Pastor Josh. I mean, they're not only doing Shiloh Commons, which is going to create another 55 affordable housing units for people, but now they just secured a piece of property back on Phillip Street, and they're going to put up 9 houses that will be affordable to single first-time home buyers first. And so what they did was they came in to meet with John Kingsley and I to talk about what other assistance can we give them to make these houses affordable. And one is public sewers, one is first-time home buyer help with their down payments, etc. So we're always looking for affordable housing. It is the number one cause of homelessness, second only, or it's a second cause. The first cause is mental illness or addiction. But we are trying to address that. We've appropriated $4 million from ARPA for affordable housing and homelessness. And for the people who are here tonight that don't know this, I just would like to remind you that the city has offered $2 million, has a pot of money for $2 million. Well, I'm sorry, $1.7 million. I don't want to exaggerate, but for facade improvements. So that next round will be starting soon, and Sean is here to help you through the application process, to help you bring your housing up to stock without having to bankrupt you. So all in all, the recycling program I think is great. The passenger rail we've been working on for 30 years, and this country is just I always say it's addicted to its autos. We have a tremendous love of our cars, and we just never understand that mass transit busing from the railroad station to your home is so much better than getting in your car, starting up, 5,000 cars instead of one locomotive. So we're interested in that. The bike share program, Jameson, we tried to do that. Oh, I don't know, Dave. It was probably 3 or 4 years ago. It was before COVID, and it was just so expensive. I mean, we don't have these bike share companies that want to come into the town yet because we still don't have the tourist level. But once they realize that they can make money, maybe they'll come in and do it for free. But the small businesses, let's move on in the meeting. I'll turn it over to any council member who would like to address the campers.
Yes. First,
go ahead, David. I just want to thank all of these young people who have come here today for having the intelligence and the foresight to every one of you addressed, and every single one of you addressed an issue that is facing Easton. And I just want to say thank you very much for your creative ideas for helping to solve the various problems that we face. And I hope as you get older, if you don't live in Easton, I hope you'll move here because we need citizens like you. So thanks very much.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to thank the campers for, first of all, stepping forward and being a part of the mayor's camp. As you learn more about your city, you take more pride about your city. And one of the things that you take away is public speaking. It's difficult sometimes for people to get up and speak in front of others. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. And the more you know your topic, the more you come across. And I think each and every one of you came across very loud and clear about what we need in this city. And as the mayor said earlier on, that we know now that our city is going to be in good hands. So thank you for participating.
Anyone else?
I just want to say thank you very much. It's always great to hear ideas, and when you're walking around the city and you're looking around, you're saying, hey, look at this, and you come up with that idea, and not everybody has the same ideas, and in hearing those ideas, it allows us to better focus on those particular problems. So thank you very much.
I just want to say thank you so much for participating in this program. I'm loving all your ideas, especially city-sponsored clubs. And I know bus benches are for Lanta, but it's a great idea. Working homeless, like everything is great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and echo my colleagues. Thank you all for your time. Thank you for choosing the mayor's camp. I'm sure there are others in the area, but quite honestly, I think we have the best in the entire valley. So thank you for choosing our camp, and good luck in your future endeavors.
I would just say that this is one of my favorite meetings of the year when I get to see young folks like you and sharing your ideas. I know when I was your age, I would never have been able to stand in front of that microphone like you do.
Well, they practice every day this week.
Congratulations, and thanks again.
I would just like to end by thanking the parents and the people who came tonight. You should be proud of your son or daughter. They did a great job. It's nice to go to a camp sometimes that it's all sports or overnight camping or whatever. But when you come to this camp, you learn a lot, and they were very good learners. They took their role seriously from day one. We did a history of Easton presentation. I hope they learned a little bit there, and then we went on a walking tour of the historic center. And I think that's the most important part because people don't realize where they come from. Local history is no longer taught in the schools. I was the last teacher in Easton School District to teach it, and I think it's really important. When we fly our flag, the Easton flag, out there, right over here, and people ask me, what is that? Is that a Confederate flag? I mean, give me a break. It's the Easton flag. And we got to teach people. And once they feel good about their history and their culture and their diversity, they become enthralled with their community and they protect their community. And that's what we hope these young people do. They're going to go back to their community and say, wow, Easton really has their act together. And that's what's important. So thank you to the parents and grandparents and whoever else is in the room. We really appreciate it. So moving on, we're going on in our agenda to public comment on agenda items only. At the end of the meeting, we have a time when you can bring up anything on the various comments, concerns, or questions about the city. But at this time, it's on agenda items only. No one else? Okay, we move right into consent agenda, Madam Clerk.
Okay, under the consent agenda, we have Bill number 25 that was introduced by Mrs. Sultana, which would amend sections in Chapter 318, the Historic Preservation Code.
That's what I introduced.
We also have a resolution approving a COA for 54 Center Square, a resolution approving a COA for 233-35 Northampton Street, a resolution approving a COA for 125-29 North 3rd Street. Hold on, I think I skipped one. And a COA, I did. COA approval for 533-535 Northampton Street as well.
I move the consent agenda.
We have a resolution authorizing the filing of an application for the National Endowment of the Arts for an R-Town grant for the Carl Sterner Arts Trail. And we have a resolution authorizing the filing for a multimodal transportation fund, which is an MFT grant in the amount of $425,000. And that would go for improvements to Cattell Street as well as Knox Avenue.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Second. Moved in second. Any discussion? Dr. Ruggles has 2 questions.
Yeah, the last item in the consent agenda, item G, if we look at that, I think that what we want to do there is in a whereas, and I think we may want to change that.
Which one? The last one?
The very last one, yeah,
Instead of being
the one on the transportation grant.
Yes. So instead of being
It starts off whereas, and describes what it is that we want to do, and I think that should start off with be it resolved, instead of whereas, right?
For the first paragraph?
Yeah, the very first paragraph is
Resolved that the City of Easton, PA of Northampton County authorizes.
to apply for. I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to apply for the grant, and it's in a whereas statement, shouldn't it be?
Should be resolved.
So we're going to change the
Change
whereas to
be
the
a
resolved.
Right.
For the first paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the last whereas.
No, the first one.
The first whereas, yeah.
Yeah, the second one could move to the top
Yeah.
that probably would be more appropriate. So take the second whereas, move it to the top, and then
Switch
the
it
first
around.
whereas, be it resolved.
Okay.
That'll do it.
I'll make that.
We'll do it. I have a motion, an amendment to the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there a second? Okay, all in favor of this said motion, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Okay, so we're voting on the amendment first.
Right.
Okay. Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Pianto?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Okay, and then to prove the
Let me
actual
just, 1 second, let me just explain that one of the problems we have in the city, as in many other cities, is that many of our streets are controlled by the state and PennDOT, and Cattell Street happens to be one of them. And the grant that we're going for will help us alleviate some of the speed on there. We've had horrific accidents at the corner of Lafayette and Cattell, and what we're proposing, and the state has approved it, but now we're trying to get them to pay for it with a grant, is a median in the middle of that street so that it'll slow down the traffic. Very common traffic calming project is to narrow the roadway rather than widen it. And that's why you have all the speed out in the townships. The townships keep widening their roads, and it gets faster and faster. When you have it more narrow, it slows traffic down. It's definitely a traffic calmer. At the other end of Cattell Street, down around the Wawa at High Street, from the top of the hill to High Street and beyond, the college is matching a grant that we got from the state to do bump outs, which are also help the pedestrians because now they will be able to cross Cattell Street at a shorter distance. Rather than being back curb to curb, they'll have a bump out like we have downtown where they can get out into the middle and the traffic will see them easier and slow down so that they can cross. We're also putting in some crossing lights, but that'll be started this later this year too.
So then I need a vote on the,
You have another amendment. Oh, that's it?
Yeah, I'm not sure where it is. I wrote it down, but I'm not able to find it right now. It was just some wording is
Okay.
all it was, yeah.
Okay.
okay, so now,
Now we're back to the original consent agenda.
and we're voting on the amended consent agenda.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
And Mayor Panto?
Aye. There are no reports received by council, by the mayor or council, so we go right into committee reports. Vice Mayor Brown, Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report for this evening, but council have received a report from our director, Mark Sinecki, and we will be meeting in committee on the 8th of next month. I will not be there. I will be on vacation, and I'll be touching base with Mark as we get ready to go through that. That's my report for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Economic Development Committee, Councilmember O'Connell.
Mayor, I will be turning over the floor to John Kingsley and Sean Ziller to give us an update and summary of the program, the loan program instituted by the city to help out downtown small businesses.
Good evening, Council. As you're going to probably recall, on May 24th, we went through an exhaustive budget reconciliation for the use of ARPA funds. In those revisions that we made, we carved out approximately $500,000 to support local businesses. And I want to commend Mr. Chen from the mayor's camp for identifying many of the kind of resources we should be providing to our local businesses to assist them through difficult times, because he's exactly right. He covered all of the resources we need to make available. So using his guideline, I'll give you an overview of where we are with the business retention program that we created, also known as the BRACE program. 4 components to the business retention program. As many will remember, there is a grants program that is intended to assist businesses that were suffering with economic impact, either post-COVID economic impact or that which is related to the current situation we have with an inflationary environment that we're operating in. We also had a loan program, which is going to try to support businesses to assist them with acquiring everything from equipment to utilizing for working capital for business growth purposes. We were also going to provide technical assistance resources to Mr. Chen's comments as it relates. We need to give these businesses an opportunity to actually improve their operating circumstances, to give them the know-how, the technical know-how to operate aspects of their businesses they may not have the skill set to support. And then finally, we have to help these businesses market themselves and market the region for visitorship and for customers to find their ways to our local businesses too. So to that end, we have now unveiled all 4 components of this business retention program. Grant program went live on June 1st and is continuing through the end of this month. We are actually looking at curtailing that program in the middle of July. As many will recall, we expected applications to be overwhelming. We have not received quite as many as we thought, 35 to date, and we're still in the process of working through some of those applications. And in a moment, Mr. Ziller will give you an overview of those grant programs and what we've actually approved and what we've committed to date in terms of resources. The loan program went live on June 19th and will continue until funding is exhausted. To date, we have 3 loans. That loan program is kind of really just getting, off the mark here. We have some marketing that we need to do for that program. We're actually putting together, kind of an overview of how these programs will run in concert with one another for our applicants. As many may recall, we designed the application for the business loan and for the grant program kind of in concert with one another, so that our businesses could apply for one and largely accomplish the requirements of the other. Technical assistance program, we had some time that we needed to move through getting the actual grant agreement approved by the Small Business Development Center, and that had to go to their home office, which is actually on the campus of Kutztown University. It took some time for them to review, and they just finally gave that their full blessing at the end of last week. So we've only had a week to really begin marketing that program. I do know that there are several businesses that have already submitted their information into the Small Business Development Center's portal. So they have some that are already, waiting to be served through that process. And then the marketing program, we're in the process of finalizing the actual initiatives we're going to be undertaking, which will be a branding of our restaurants. We'll also be working on some destination marketing. We'll be working with GEDP to actually undertake those initiatives. And what I want to do now is kind of turn the podium over to Mr. Ziller. He's going to walk you through the grant program current status, the number of applicants we've received, the number that have been approved, and give you an idea of where they were approved and the kinds of businesses that have been supported through this process. So without further ado, Mr. Ziller.
Good evening, Council. Just again, to John's point, 35 applications have been submitted. It's actually 37. One was deemed ineligible as they did not meet the criteria for the grant program, and one was ultimately, unfortunately, closed. So they rescinded their application for the grant program. So as of today, the number of submittals per neighborhood, we have 1 from College Hill, 30 from the downtown, 3 from South Side, and 3 from the West Ward. That brings you to that 37. The number of approvals right now are 19, 1 on College Hill, 17 in the downtown, 1 on the South Side, and none yet on the in the West Ward. What I will say is, even though we've received 37 and we've approved 19, many of them are still in the process of getting the needed paperwork for us to go to that review stage for those applications. So even though we've received 3 in West Ward, that doesn't mean that we haven't or aren't going to approve them moving forward. So 22 fully completed applications, 13, as I said, they're in process or we're awaiting documentation for. Just to give you a brief breakdown on the business categories here. So it was 16 submissions from retail, what we classify as retail, 7 from restaurants or bars, 5 from bakeries or cafes, 6 from service, and then 3 that we classified as kind of other, that don't fall in the other categories here. So the application requirements are an intake form, which is available on our website, which I have linked in the kind of flyer I gave you, as well as their monthly cash flow projections. So what do they see as the next 3 months of how their business is going to operate based upon their kind of best expertise and on-the-ground knowledge. Financial information from 2022 and 2023. What we do want to stress for these businesses is that it's going to stay confidential. It stays between myself, Mr. Kingsley, and then 2 representatives, Jared Mast and Kim Kometz from GDP. They're part of the review committee for this grant program. So we're not going to disseminate their financial information as they apply. And then obviously we just need a copy of their certificate of organization to verify that they're a business and able to operate in Pennsylvania. So we've had 2 review sessions thus far, comprised of the 4 individuals that I mentioned. Again, we're going to do this on a kind of weekly basis, so we expect to continue even after the deadline has passed. And as John said, the application deadline was extended until July 31st. What I would ask is that certainly as you're going out into the community, as you saw, we have a very significant application submittal from businesses in the downtown. I would ask that as council members, you would go out into the other neighborhoods to really advertise this program. We have reached out to the neighborhood associations, Southside Civic, College Hill, the Westward Community Initiative. Obviously, GEDP is our partner to kind of spread this among their connections. So again, we thank you very much for the approval of the funding to support this program.
Sean,
sure.
Are you happy with the number of applicants, the 37? Do you think, were you expecting more or less? Or?
Sure. So I think for the downtown number, I think that's what we expected, 30 from the downtown. Certainly, as I said, I think we collectively agree we'd like to see others from outside the immediate business district. I think as we've ramped this up in the first week, I was a little nervous about the submissions, but we've really, it's going at a pretty good clip now in terms of those submissions. I'd like to see more, and I think the funding's there to support that. So.
The application process fairly easy? I mean,
yep, and we're willing to work through that. I know some, one big thing I did note when we're receiving these applications, a lot of businesses actually don't have kind of an accounting system that they can easily just go in their portal and pull this. So that's good kind of food for thought as we work with SBDC on the technical component, maybe helping to guide them to better account for their finances. But we're willing to walk through the whole process. And even after the July 31st deadline, if they've done the intake form and they're still working on getting us documentation, we're not going to close it off on the 31st.
Okay.
Thank you, Sean.
Yep.
John.
Thanks, guys.
Planning and Codes Committee, Councilmember Sultana.
I have no report, Mayor.
Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Ruggles.
I have no report.
Public Works Committee, Councilman Enninger.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a report, but I do have a resolution later on regarding the Wood Avenue project. I know that we've discussed it to this point, but for a point of clarification, I asked Mr. Hopkins. I know that council people had questions about the reconfiguration.
Thank you, Councilman. So on your agenda tonight is the construction agreement with the low bidder, Grace Industries. We went out for bid. We received 5 bids. I believe the high bid was about $2.5 million, and their construction contract is worth about $1.8 million, which is nice because that's about right where our budget is. The funding for the project will come from the turnback funds. When the city took back that section of Wood Avenue from PennDOT, I believe it was around 2012 or 13 in that neighborhood. So we've been working at this for a while. I talked to Grace. They're also the winning contractor for Cattell Street, so they'll be doing both simultaneously. They'll probably mobilize, sometime in August and get started out there. UGI is working on Wood Avenue right now, trying to finish their project up, and Grace Industries is hoping to move in right after they get done. The project is pretty comprehensive. It involves the segment between Northampton Street and the 13th Street interchange, that whole stretch there. The first thing we need to do is replace the damaged concrete base that is the existing road today. It hasn't seen much work since the 50s when it was initially installed. We'll be putting ADA ramps throughout the entire corridor, traffic calming islands, and then obviously repaving it, which I think is a big improvement. And I do have a couple slides. They're not the best props because I had to pull them off the plans, but at least it'll give you an idea of what physically the layout will look like. The biggest change is going to take place down near Northampton Street. We'll be flipping the unit block of Wood Avenue to one-way east and bringing people directly into the business district, and then we'll be flipping Church one-way west, and we'll be reconfiguring the intersection. So if you've ever driven through Church, Prospect, and 7th, it is a little confusing, and it's there's a double stop there. There's a lot of real estate, so we're trying to cure that as well.
Dave, just a quick question before you move on. With going through at the same time Cattell Street and 13th Street would have, how will that affect our traffic flow?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. With both projects going on at the same time, you got 13th Street, Wood Ave, and you have Cattell Street going on at the same time. How would that affect our traffic flow, being that they're coming from different points?
I don't think you'll see much impact from Cattell Street. That's being run through PennDOT, so they're being restricted on how they can work. They have to keep a crossing open at every single intersection. The intersections they'll be working at are High and Cattell, March and Cattell, Clinton Terrace, and they'll also be working on McCartney and College Avenue. Okay. That crossing is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
So, the intersections of McCartney, March, and High will be getting the rectangular rapid flashing beacons like you see on North 3rd Street, and they'll be push button activated by pedestrians.
Okay.
Clinton Terrace will not, but they'll all see bump outs, so the crossing distances are shorter. I think it'll be a real nice improvement, but it's not really a whole lot of work. There's a phase 2 and a phase 3 coming, where phase 2 of the Cattell Street improvements will include the mid-block, mid-block sidewalks, pedestrian scale lighting, things of that nature. And then we're still working on the scope for phase 2.
So the bump outs will look similar to what we have right here in front of the City Hall.
Yes. Yep. So what you're looking at here is, this is the western segment by Jackson Street, but I just wanted to show you an example of, each corner, all the ADA ramps will be improved. And then as you get closer to the intersection, there'll be a traffic calming island. And that's proposed for almost all of the blocks throughout the corridor. In some, when we worked with the traffic engineers, in some cases where there's a much smaller entrance from one of the secondary roads. We actually put the island in front of it to prevent a crossing, so that you'll have to turn either left or right and not cross the entire roadway. We figured that would be another good way to calm traffic. This is a close-up of what the islands look like. There's actually a pass-through for the pedestrians, so the island is located in a way that it's situated so that it can have the pass-through that goes from ADA ramp to ADA ramp. And like I said, this is a continuing theme through the entire corridor. There'll be planted islands. We thought it would be good to get some verdancy into the area. Probably tough to maintain, but we're willing to do it because we think it's worth it, and we think this major thoroughfare through this neighborhood could use it. And finally, I wanted to show you what the new configuration will look like. So Wood Avenue will now be one-way east. There'll be a new signal added at the corner of Northampton and Wood. One of the bigger changes in configuration is at Church and Prospect. Instead of that double stop, we took away a lot of the real estate with curb bump outs, and we teed it off, which is a common method to make intersections a lot safer, and then there's a lot less going on there. It also gave us the opportunity to green it up, and I think it'll be a really nice improvement through there. You may remember when we had our public meeting about the scope of this, a year or two ago. We got some impact from the fire department that they wanted to make sure they could get through there pretty quickly. So we ran turning templates with their trucks, and when they come down, they can make the left onto Church, and they don't even have to stop when they re-enter the road because it'll be one west starting at that point. I'm sorry, not one. They'll be able to pull into the westbound lane, so they should be able to respond through here with no problem. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
My biggest concern is the traffic light at the intersection of Northampton and 6th? Seventh. Okay. I mean, if you go up to the next block where you have 5 roads coming in, that's a long wait at that intersection. And because it has to cycle through all of the entrances into the intersection. And we're going to experience the same thing here. I mean, you're going to have some type of traffic control such that, the people that are coming in on Wood are allowed to get into Northampton Street, and still you got, people on 6th, and you got people on Northampton. And I mean, what we're doing here is we're really delaying traffic movement at that intersection by having it come in going east.
Well, when we did we did traffic studies and counts, and it still works on a 120-second cycle. We didn't, intersections are graded, and we did not lose level of service by doing that.
I don't see how you couldn't. I mean, if you just go up to the fire station, I mean, you've lost a lot of level of service at the fire station because of that 5th Street. I mean, you wait there a long time to get a green light.
You do.
Yeah.
That intersection has Walnut Avenue, 6th Street, and Northampton Street. This one just has 7th and Northampton, one regular one, plus the addition of Wood Avenue.
Right.
So
Still got to be a light there.
Yeah, you have one instead of 2.
I mean, I'd be happy to go over the timing block with you and show you how the movements work, but it didn't really degrade the service at all. I mean, the thought was that when you're coming into town and you're veered off onto Church Street, it's really, I think it's, for the future anyway, it'll be better to bring people right into the center of the business district. I think it's a better experience than getting turned off onto that alley.
Coming off a Church, hit the stop sign, turn right, hit a stop in the street, and then you go again, then you hit a traffic light.
Correct.
So this way, that'd be a whole lot smoother.
And there's a right-hand traffic doesn't
Correct.
stop. It's pretty confusing up there. I mean, if you live there, you know how to do it. If you don't, it takes a little bit. But overall, we felt like this would be a nice improvement.
May I ask a question from those people who? Thank you for. It's not a legal question. Other than the fact that I'm thinking of the people who come from the courthouse and would be heading west to go home, typically you'd go down 7th Street, you'd make that left turn into Wood Avenue. So that's not going to be allowed anymore, right? You'd have to continue to go straight and then make a left at Church.
Right.
No, you could do that, or you could make a left on Northampton and take any number of streets.
Of
to get
streets
to Wood Avenue.
besides that, but okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of options for
Okay.
people traveling.
Good that I have my office in Easton and don't have to, except I'm going to get stuck with all the traffic turning left onto Charles while I want to continue to go straight to Bushkill. It's going to be interesting. I'm a little skeptical on the flow part because it seemed to me that the west route along Northampton was to slide into Wood and then head straight out to 13th Street
That bridge you
interchange.
go over to get to College Hill, we're going to dedicate that to the Delaware River Joint Toll Bridge Commission. Charge you.
We're gonna have what's it called that density. We're gonna have meters. So when you're traveling on Lafayette Street, you're gonna get charged.
We do have a rendering showing the unit block two-way, and it was a colorful discussion with everyone, and in the end we just felt like it was so tight with side view mirrors almost touching. We weren't comfortable. It really would have been great to make it two-way from Northampton.
Yeah.
There's not
No,
enough.
that wouldn't work. I actually did have a legal question dealing with this resolution, which I'll ask now. You could think about it and maybe before you vote. The agreement for site preparation that's presented to council members to vote on, besides the resolution which talks about the purchase, the total price of $1,795,000, does not have a specific reference to the bid itself that would tie this into the contract. There's a blank in Article 1 where it refers to contract addendums, including addendum number, and I don't know what process, what procedure. This is all to approve a contract that was bid out, correct?
Correct.
And the bid itself, the request for proposals, has all the details, the legal issues, the payment, and everything else. So I'm saying for this,
The paragraph right after Article 3 incorporates all those documents.
it incorporates what documents?
No, it says all the documents enumerated in Article 3, and Article 3 says all the contract documents.
To what? There's no reference here to a specific contract. It could be the Grace Industries contract at Lafayette College. I'm just saying there has to be a number, something associated with this bid that should be clearly identified in Article 1, and then everything else flows. I just think you need to put in some more definitive language, whatever way your bid is identified, whatever you called that bid, whatever, when it was bid out, if you had a name for it.
Wood Avenue improvements.
Okay, then and it doesn't have a bid number? Okay, then I would just suggest that when you vote, we add all documents, including all addendum there too, per the RFP for the Wood Avenue improvements, and then just add that when you vote.
Add that to what?
Add that to Article 1, where it said numbered, instead of numbered, you just cross that out and you'd put in what we just said. Because then we have a definition to tie it in. Do you follow me? I saw Article 3 incorporates everything, but I don't see anything here that tells you exactly what it's connecting it to. I mean, even the identity of Grace Industries, I'm assuming, has full details in the RFP, but right now I just see Grace Industries, no address or anything else. So we are relying on the RFP package, and that's all I'm saying. If we do that per the RFP for the Wood Avenue improvements, it'd be even better if it said dated such and such a date, but if we, whatever that information is, if you could provide that to Rita and she could plug that in, so when you vote tonight, it'll be as with the understanding that will be plugged in.
And Dave, just one other question while we're there. As it stands right now, as we come down from Wood Avenue going east, okay, the houses that are there that we're going to be changing, they park on the left-hand side or the right-hand side as you come through there. What happens to their parking there?
It switches to the right.
So we're going to move them to the other side?
Yep.
Okay.
Are you doing that because you get more parking spaces, or because it seems to me, if I'm driving and I'm driving on the right-hand side of the road, Now all of a sudden, there's cars parked on that side of the road.
Well, the double yellow would move.
Okay, but
So you would have, so
and you got people getting out of their cars, walking across the street to get to their house.
correct.
You know, so I mean, if they were parking on the same side as their house was, then you wouldn't have that issue.
Agreed. But it would, I mean, we probably could configure it that way.
I noticed that when you had it up there, you had a lot more parking as a result of moving it to the other side of the street. And I didn't know if that was the reason that you had.
Mazin's crazy button.
Yeah,
fell out.
while Dave's looking, I just want to correct one thing I said. There is above, in the signature block, there is an address and the name of the corporation, so at least that much is there. But we still need that added thing to be plugged in.
That's not a problem. And Rita, we get tomorrow, in addition to Wood Avenue improvements, as per what the solicitor said, we could get the date, so it's actually dated. We'll actually put the date in there.
What do you, I'm not sure I know what you mean.
It would be an RFP dated for the Wood Avenue improvements.
City Council will vote on it tonight, knowing that it should say Wood Avenue improvements dated, as per the RFP dated.
Right.
Whatever.
For Wood Avenue improvements.
I think we moved it to get more parking.
Okay. I noticed that there's definitely more parking there, but
Yeah,
but,
I
but
think that's the reason we
you
did it.
know,
I mean, there's nothing that says we couldn't stripe the other side and park on the left. I figured if, you know, it always seems like we're so ingrained, like, wow, we can get more parking, let's do that.
yeah, I mean, I think that block, I mean, that's just my guess. It's not, I don't have any data for it, but I mean, there aren't a lot of houses on that block.
No,
and so I don't think that the demand for parking is critical.
Well, it's not likely that we'll even pave that this year. There's so much concrete work to be done that I think we're going to lose weather and pave it in the spring. So that'll give us time. We can even go meet with the folks.
2 businesses and about 5 houses in a little area.
I think we have plenty of time to like survey them, and we could even ask them what side of the road they'd prefer the parking on. I mean, we can switch that. That's not hard.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
All right,
Hopkins.
thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Councilman Ettinger?
No.
Administration Committee, Councilmember Milan.
I have no report.
Report of the Solicitor, Mr. Shear.
Already given. Thank you. Nothing
Okay.
further.
Report of the Mayor. I just want to mention that the soccer watch party the other night in Center Square Friday night was absolutely fabulous. I thought it was not only well attended, but everybody sort of liked the idea that they could just bring their lawn chair and sit in the middle of the road or in a circle and watch it. The screen that they got, even though it was huge, it was crystal clear. Sorry, crystal, but it was crystal clear, and it was unbelievable. Also, want to just mention that Mark, as the Vice Mayor mentioned, Mark gave out sent us the email with the mid-year report. I would take the time over the next 2 weeks to do that, and on Tuesday night we'll dedicate ourselves to looking at the numbers. I think the numbers are looking really good, including there was some debate that we were overinflating EIT, and that's coming in right on target. And so is everything else that we question. Revenues are up, so the city's doing well financially, and our budget should come in right on target. Also, want to mention that for the 3rd time, and maybe 3rd time's a charm, but looking at the weather forecast for Saturday night, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good because Saturday all afternoon is going to be a thunderstorm. And it takes about 5 hours to set up the fireworks, but they are scheduled to go off at 9:30 on Saturday night. We moved it to Saturday night, so guess what? If it rains, we can make it Sunday night. So the rain date is the next day, so hopefully it will work out, though. And I just want to give an update on Lewis. I did talk to Lewis last night. I try not to call him at all. I called him once this whole week, and I didn't call him last week at all. He was to his family doctor yesterday, Tuesday, and he's going to go to his cardiologist on next Wednesday. And according to him, he thinks he's going to be released to come back to work. I don't think so, but you know, we'll see what happens. He is doing well. He did attend his son's basketball practice the other night, and he did take his daughter to volleyball, so he's doing better. I was there when he was brought into the hospital, and thank God. I mean, what a miracle. It just absolutely was. The man was dead for 2 minutes, so it was really, we were very fortunate we didn't lose him. We're going to, at a later date when he can be here, we're going to be honoring the people, the 2 civilians, the 2 firefighters, the 2 police officers, and the EMT people that responded, that actually was able to administer CPR and get him to the hospital in time. And the decision was made to take him to St. Luke's Easton because they didn't think he'd make it to Anderson. And when I met him out there, I was happy to see Joe Faccio. Dr. Faccio is the head of the emergency room out there. They do a great job. I can't say enough about that emergency room. And Dr. Faccio is a former firefighter in Easton, so it was really good to have him there. And he happened to be on duty that night. So with that, we'll move on to no correspondence to be received, no unfinished business. Madam Clerk, we're in a new business. One item.
Okay, we have a resolution being introduced by Mr. Ettinger, which would approve an agreement with Grace Industries for the improvements to Wood Avenue with the changes that were suggested by Attorney Shear, which will read for the Wood Avenue improvements per the RFP dated, and then Dave, you have to give me those dates.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Milan?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
And Mr. Brown?
Aye. At this time, we have public comment on any matter. Any comments, questions, or concerns about the city of Easton? Feel free to come up, give your name and address, and you have 5 minutes. Mr. Rabbits.
Marty Ravitz, 144 Church Street, Easton. I'd just like council to recognize Shiloh's new shower program for the homeless because it's fabulous.
It is. We are very fortunate. Yes. I was over there the other day, and I have the mayor of Reading coming in. He wants to see it in action, so we're very fortunate. Yeah, it's a great program. They do it Tuesdays and Thursdays.
My name is Marquita Rex. I am a Westwood resident. My residency is 949 Butler Street.
Could you spell your name, please?
First or last?
Both. Sorry.
Marquita. Last name is Rex, R-E-X.
Thank you.
My home is on the 949 Butler Street. I am actually on the corner of 10th Street where Butler comes down and the traffic turns there. On our corner, there's the catty corner from my home. I have the single residency there, is the housing projects. My husband has been there for 13 years. I've been there 8 years. The whole time that he has been there, and I have been there, there is a police camera up there. That camera has not worked. We have called down to the police department, spoke to officers. They told us that it was on back order, that you were replacing certain cameras throughout the city, and that they would let us know. Within the last 3 months, obviously, the city is aware of the catalytic converter issue. My car was hit 3 times.
Wow.
My husband and I have spent over $2,000 on our own security camera around our house, which also includes a 6-foot privacy fence. So my question to City Council and to the police department is, what are we doing to replace these cameras, and not saying we're leaving the old ones there for deterrence? They're not working.
Well, thanks first of all for
Chief,
bringing it to us.
Chief can address it.
Attention.
Good evening again, and I'll try to speak to you as well as the council. But so what basically we have is the technology that's up in that area of the block. That was our first generation of camera systems that went into the city. That goes back almost, I think, about 15 to 17 years ago when we started this project. Those camera systems and the housings for those camera systems, and there's many like that, became obsolete. They started to go down, started to have problems. It became a lot cheaper for us to actually rebuild with the new technology, new back office, and that's what we have started to do. So the cameras are being replaced throughout the city. We just haven't gotten out that far yet. We haven't taken down a lot of those just because, again, there's really no reason to take it down at this point. The box is still up and the camera housing is still there. The camera's just not. And so as we continue to kind of grow out the system, so to answer your question, we are in the process of trying to build that out. It has been up. I don't know that it's been 12 years that it's been down. Not that it's been down though, because I actually run.
There was a shooting there, and I'm going to say 2012, 2013. The cameras did not work at that time.
And to whether or not they worked at that moment in time, I can tell you that it hasn't been abandoned for that long. It's only been abandoned probably for about, I would say, maybe the last 3 or 4 years that the old system was abandoned, the new system that we put through the budget every year.
New servers, yeah.
And again, we went through those units were about $20,000 a location to put up. The new ones are less than $5,000. So we're able to kind of cover a much larger area with the new cameras. The problem with it is that with just like that project, we have to build it out so it's line of sight. So you can't just put a camera there and have it automatically connect back to our system. We have to actually develop our way out. We did that first system through a grant through the Safe Schools, if you remember. And so we had a large sum of money to build out from start to finish. We just haven't gotten there yet. So there are multiple camera housings like that throughout the city. That just happens to be one of them. But to answer your question, every year we budget for additional cameras, and we continue to build those out as well into other neighborhoods over at the south side, things like that. So we're actually able to, or will be able to, in a much shorter period of time, build out and cover the majority of the city. So it is unfortunate that it's there. It would be nice that they all worked. They just, obviously, over the course of time, like technology does, it just went down.
So when you're saying line of sight,
yes,
you're talking about communication line of sight,
correct,
right?
Yeah.
So when he's saying building it out, they have to have communication from one to the other as they go out.
Right.
Yeah.
And we are starting to, and we actually, everything obviously goes from our station, so that's the initial hub. We have been working too with IT in getting, one of the things that we've been looking to do is get the, almost like a loop throughout the city. And if we had that loop throughout the city that we had been talking about over the course of time, and that may come to fruition, that would also help because we could ride that loop to get back to the facility as well. But that's where everything has to get back to. So we start there, and then we build out from there. And obviously where you're at is just a little bit further out. But we do hear your plight, obviously, as to having it there as a deterrent. And one of the things I'll do tomorrow is I'll look at to see exactly where we are with our plan, our camera plan. One of the things that has slowed us down a little as well is also the LPR plan, which is now part of the camera plan, which is a whole different set of cameras that's all integrated together. So it's a pretty big project, but we're working on covering the city. It's just through financial resources and even manpower resources. Trying to get the entire city covered is just taking a little bit of time.
Excuse me, Ms. Rex, Marquita. Did you say you were broken into 3 times?
My catalytic converter was stolen 3 times already. I had Amazon packages stolen already. There was a hit and run about a year ago right on the corner from a drunk driver coming around. So
Mrs. Rex, we'll work on this for sure, and the chief will give me an answer tomorrow as to when we think we can get to that.
That's what I was.
But your camera, we have a new app the police department has. It's called Crime Watch. We can get your cameras registered. It'd be a great help for us to help deter that crime.
that's fine. I have 3 of them. I have one other you,
Sure.
officer. And I don't mean to be sarcastic when I say this, but is this a new thing that when we call the city police department that they call us back on their cell phone and not respond?
That's not a thing at all.
I didn't think it was either, but that's happened.
So you're calling, what do you?
Calling 911 okay, right next door to my house is the laundromat there. That's a 24-hour laundromat.
Okay.
Not my laundromat, but right there on 10th Street.
Mhm.
So again, a lot of crime going on in there. Again, with also the problems that I said, the catalytic converter, I had to call obviously 3 times to make police reports. The Amazon packages being stolen, called to make reports. Officers either don't show or they call us back or call me back and my neighbors back on their cell phone. And I'm like,
To do what?
that's my point exactly.
What do they do then when they call you back?
Nothing.
So do they? I'm just trying to. So what's the conversation?
The
What do they?
conversation is, did you call 911? What is the emergency? And I'm like, is this the 911 dispatch or you the officer? No, I'm officer, whoever. And I'm like, okay, this is the issue. All right, well, I was even told one time it was change of shift.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get someone out there as soon as possible.
Well, that could certainly happen if it's a change of shift. I mean, obviously, with that happening, if it's an incident like a catalytic converter theft that's not in progress, then yeah, that may happen where they change shifts and come out when they clear the shift. But as far as handling the call over the phone, so that's something I'd have to look into. I don't have an answer, but that is not something that's started or is a thing. So do you have an officer's name and all that you can give me? You don't, okay.
I have it, but
That's, well, if I can get some information as to like the date, time, those types of things, I'll be able to run that down and find out what's.
You know, just Mrs. Rex, we get a lot of complaints about when people call 911. Just to let you know, it's not our officers. If they said they were an officer, they are a dispatcher.
Well,
no, this wasn't.
it could be the
actually-
officer.
Was it
Yeah.
call back?
Me, yes,
All right.
officer.
Okay.
He actually called me back, and
Okay.
there was one time a female actually called me back as well.
Okay. The other thing I would just let you know is that we actually have a complaint procedure. Very, very simple. If you have something like that happen where you're not satisfied with whatever's going on, then there's a way that you can let us know so that we can kind of get word of it and find out what it is or why it happened. So I'm not saying what was right or wrong here in anything that happened, but I would like to find out why it happened and make sure that if it's something like that. But you shouldn't be getting phone calls. Typically, we would respond. Again, if it's a non-emergency and we're either tied up on something else or if we're in the middle of a shift change, we would probably finish that shift change and then come out after that. And that's probably the purpose for that call, to let you know that we're delayed in that shift change. And it's not going to change anything if it's a non-progress type call, like a theft like that. But I'll have to look into it to find out a little bit more for you. But I can certainly do that. So I'll get that information. Perfect.
Because I have some times where no officers even showed up.
Okay. And I'd like to be able to try to grab all that and find out what happened. So. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Rex.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, well, here's the thing. This isn't an Easton problem, obviously. This is a nationwide problem, and they're actually starting to crack down on that to some extent, where they're not going to allow catalytic converters to be sold at all. Because basically they're being sold for the precious metals inside of them. And so this is all over the country where they're stealing them. It's like, it's become a pretty lucrative endeavor. So I don't have a good answer. I don't have the number of how many. I can tell you that there has been quite a few. And I can tell you that it's not in any specific neighborhood in the city. It's all over the city, from College Hill to Southside up to the West Ward, all over the place. So, in all of our best efforts, in the middle of the night, someone climbs under a car and cuts out a catalytic. They do it in about a minute. I mean, they can get them out of there pretty quick. I'd probably be able to get you that number. Sure. I'd probably be able to get you that number. And, and again, like I said, there are things in the works of trying to be a deterrent. I do know they sell actually now covers that go over catalytic converters that make it more difficult. Yeah. So, so those things are recommended for sure, especially there's specific models that actually are easier to get to than others as far as vehicles. And like the mayor said, and one of the things I'd like to start do is I'm actually going to bring in a pack of our Crime Watch documentation. If we could put that out at every council meeting and just mention it, this way people can grab it on their way out the door and sign up. Because the actual Crime Watch, whenever those things are happening, neighborhoods and things like that, we're putting out all kinds of alerts to let the public know if we're seeing those types of things occur in specific neighborhoods. But usually they're sporadic and they're hit and miss as far as the neighborhoods go, and it's a real challenge for us, for sure.
Okay, anyone else? No one else? I'll have a entertain. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's my kid.
Well, I know that.
Brandy.
That's my neighbor next door.
Brandy Goodwin, 1051 and a half West Lincoln Street. Just wanted to inquire about a comment that was made earlier about the housing that's going to be placed on Phillip Street. If I can just get a little extra information about that.
Shiloh Church, their housing division has purchased a lot behind Mr. Houston and Mr. Jones' house, and they're going to build 8 or 9. If City Council vacates Charles Street, which is a paper street, they will probably build 9. If not, they'll build 8. It'll be first-time home buyers, and we're putting together with Mr. Kingsley some other opportunities to help subsidize the housing, and they're bringing in a company from Bucks County to do modular housing, like they did down by their church. So
Shiloh 1.
Shiloh 1, yeah.
So these are going to be townhouses. They'll all be connected.
No, they won't be townhouses.
No, they're
they'll
all
be duplexes. Half doubles.
doubles.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that all you wanted to know, Mom? Okay. Thank you.
All righty. Call Pastor Vandenberg or Pastor Davis, and you get some better information.
Hi, Councilman.
How are we doing?
Sure, I don't have to introduce
No,
myself.
you don't, Mrs. Flowers.
No, you really do. It's Roseanne Flowers, 147 South 4th Street And we had met 2 weeks ago about the parking permit program.
We discussed that. I think we're going to be recommending to City Council at their next meeting that we basically grandfather all buildings that were part of the original ordinance.
Okay.
But again, as you know, as we told you, the plan is that we don't want any of the new apartment buildings being allowed to park on the street for $100 a year because it's just not. We just don't have the space.
Yes.
And we want to encourage people to use our garages, not only the residents but the developers. And when we're running out of space, then we're out of space. The development will basically stop because they won't have a place for their people to park.
Okay.
So I think that's what we're going to recommend to City Council. We went round and round about what we could do. Mr. Solicitor was not as happy raising it to 25 units.
Yeah.
Because there is two problems. One is arbitrarily deciding on a number, and two would be the Commodore has 23, and we don't want the Commodore parking here either on the street. So
I'm close to their number. Okay.
Yes, you're at 18, 20.
18. Yeah, 18.
So that's what our solution is, and Mr. Shear, if you agreed with that, we would grandfather all the people who were originally part of the original 1987 plan.
My only suggestion is not. There's two parts to this. The non-legal part is to actually determine or have a real number. If we do that, how many potential residents are there out there going after how many specific parking spots, just to figure out how that works, and then determine how do you have a fair process going forward, because we're now opening it up again. Are we going to have a lottery, or there's a finite number. Now, if you tell me there's 520 spots on the street and there were 600 people who lived here previously in units under in the whatever time, I don't know what time you're going to use to grandfather it, because well, that gets into the legal part. But let's say you said the date that you enacted the resolution for 6 or less to allow that to be grandfathered. It's all going to be retroactive as of that particular date. Then it still would be interesting to know how many units are you potentially or drivers are you potentially opening this up for? Because it's not people who lived here at that time. You're talking about monetizing the units for the owners who have the buildings with those units, so they're getting that right that they pass on to their tenants, which is where I start to concerned about the legal issue of the fairness. Fairness itself is not necessarily a legal issue. It's just a concept that I sort of like. It's whether you're being discriminatory, illegal in an illegal fashion, and that's, I think, the considerations that is a great topic for the members of the legislature to discuss. You go back to the issue too, even of the cost of these permits, because the cost of these permits, were traditionally very low per year, and now you're essentially, you're opening up to new people who are competing in a new environment as far as the value of a parking spot, and that's part of what you have to consider.
I definitely think that people would pay more for that privilege. I do feel like the $98 a year, I believe it is extremely low. I do feel like people would pay more for that, but in my particular case, we're 18 units, and I would say 40% of the current tenants are grandfathered in. So in my particular case, I'm probably only talking about 12 or 13 parking spaces. So I really think if you grandfathered all the other buildings in, the tenants that lived there. Excuse me?
Our zoning requires 1.5, so you would have to have 27 spaces, and you could have up to that.
Yeah.
But
your
current employees, your current tenants may be 12, but future tenants could be 27.
Well, that's another thing you're going to have to consider. You're going to have to consider the details. Is it going to be one spot
Mr. Sherwood
per
already
unit?
looked at that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Hopkins can tell you, we have a lot fewer public spaces than we have tenants in downtown. We know that. And if that $100 was charged today, it would be $269.
Yeah.
That was the value of $100 in 1987 versus today is $268.
Right, and that's
And
still less than the parking garage.
It's
They
still less
would
than the
pay
parking
for
garage,
the
but I'm not sure it's going to be
convenience.
less than. It's going to be any less people trying to get it because it is less than the parking garage.
Yeah, yeah. Well, any consideration that you make, we
We'll
really
work with it,
appreciate it.
We'll work with Mr. Shear and try to come with
Yeah.
something that.
Even as you mentioned, the social security parking lot,
Well, we're
or
working on
this parking lot that's in between us is completely empty. There's like 70 parking spaces right there.
Yeah,
You know?
we also know that we did the number analysis, the math, and we have more privately owned off-street parking than we have city-owned public property parking, either in a garage and on street.
Right.
I mean, there's private parking all over the place, and the only people making money is cars.
Yeah.
CARS, the people who tow, because they're charging $400
Right.
cash.
Exactly. Okay. Well, I'll try to keep. You know, is it easiest
2
for
weeks
me
we'll come
to?
in. We'll talk to Mr. Chair. We'll try to have a recommendation in 2 weeks.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Anyone else? Seeing none. Move to adjourn.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. O'Connell.
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana. Aye. Mayor Panto.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger.
Aye.
Mr. Milan.
Aye.
Thank you. and Good night.